Right, okay, so I wanted to do a video today about the Diezel VH4 lead channel. Now this is one of the newer amps in the Helix. I think it came in the firmware before the current firmware that we're on. And this is obviously a heavier amp than some. This is the heaviest channel on the amp as well. So the Diezel VH4 is a little bit of a famous amp, I think, for a few reasons. I'm going to do a dual cab thing with it because I kind of like the way this stuff sounds. I think I'm going to use just Cali V30's bog standard stuff with some reflections. Now it's quite a high DSP amp. I think this is one of the highest in the Helix. So if you do want to use other effects with it, I would advise maybe not doing the dual cab thing. But I think we might have enough gain in here that we don't necessarily need to use a drive pedal into it. So what we get stock settings are so that's with a Les Paul. You can hear that there's like quite a lot of gain, but you're not getting like loads of endless bloom. So if we wanted more of that kind of thing, maybe we could up the master. So by default it's at 5. This is kind of cranking the amp further. So you see this probably having some impact on not a huge difference, but you're getting a little bit more kind of chunk to it. If you wanted tighter tones, I'd keep the master volume lower. This deep thing is like the opposite of a presence control. So if we have this all the way up, you should get as much low end as you can get. But that might be better suited to run that higher with the master volume a bit lower. Otherwise you're kind of starting to really kind of overdo the power amp section, and you can hear like, to me you can hear like the oscillation and stuff. So with the master higher, maybe keep that deep kind of lower if you really want to crank it. But right, let's keep them down at 5. Now let's take some of the other settings to 5 and see what we end up with. I think sometimes having everything at 5 as a starting point can be kind of reminds me a little bit of like a rectifier in that it's not quite a lot of flub to things. So maybe don't be afraid to take that bass kind of lower, like on a Mesa Boogie as well. So the bass is a hugely influential control. And I don't know how clean we can get this thing. We take our drive down to about 3. Basically always has a little bit of hair on it, or quite a lot. I don't know, 9.5 for our lead. Let's try it there. Mid's at about 7.5, and treble coming up a bit. 6.5 maybe. Save that. Then for our rhythm tone, maybe we keep things up towards about 8, and the treble up again. So then we'd get. And maybe I might even bring that bass down a bit for kind of tighter rhythm tone. In terms of, we could even do something like this if we want kind of a really, a bit more of a modern kind of thing going in front of the amp. So a high shelf, maybe let's try this 5 dB. So I might have something like that boost there. I think I'd also want the input gate on for most of the snapshots. I might turn it off for clean. And then I think probably I'd want the option for some delay. So let's try a dual delay. These are the settings that I tend to use for this sort of thing. Take these down to about 23. But I guess the kind of cool thing is that we don't really need to use a drive in front of this kind of amp because we've got so much available. Me personally, I might even on the lead tone have these high cuts coming down lower for the kind of smoother thing that I'm into. Obviously you could adjust this for taste. For a more modern kind of cutting lead tone, you could keep that higher, but for me, that's kind of where I'm at with that sort of thing. So yeah. Let me know if you want me to drop that into the folder. That's the Diezel VH4 lead channel. I think it's worth a look just because you can do a big range of kind of gained up tones, big thick stuff, and you know, you've got these controls which are actually quite useful, like deep, which you could think of like the opposite version of presence. You know, you're doing kind of lower end heft in the power amp section. So yeah, let me know if you want me to drop that into the folder. I'll catch you in another video soon. Feel free to like and subscribe if this was a tool, the sort of thing that you find useful. Cheers.